Hello friends, Namaste. This interview was recorded 7-8 days ago and it was absolutely pleasure talking with Richard Ells once again, and I tried to ask him some different types of questions. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and share it. So let's start this interview and welcome once again Richard Ells, the CEO of Electroneum, in this channel.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you inviting me back on. It's very kind of you. And yeah, we're very excited about what's going on. Lots and lots of stuff going on. I mean, I didn't think we could get any busier, but we are. Yeah, we're getting a lot of things done. It's going to be a really exciting next few months.
Yeah, I can see that on Twitter, like all the teams are keep busy posting, tweeting everywhere, even in LinkedIn also. Yeah. So it's nice.
Good.
And even I am getting a lot of good response all over my people or my subscriber, or even in Twitter, even in Telegram, very good response. And but people keep asking same questions again and again. So how do you manage all those things when people keep asking same question every time?
Yeah, well, it's a bit difficult. I mean, sometimes, funnily enough, I just filled in a piece of paper for somebody. I was answering some questions to give quotes, and the first question they'd asked was straight away about price. And that's really difficult for us. And the question that gets asked most often of me is price-related questions. And literally, I think it either happened yesterday or it's happening today. We have an FCA application going in. This is the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK. We have an obligation to be under the FCA regulatory framework by the end of this year. It's absolutely critical that we do so. So that and it might take 6 months for it to happen. So I believe it's either just gone in or it's just going in. So you know, we're treating this business as a regulated business, as a business that is like any other fintech company or any other listed company. I mean, we're not a listed company, but if you imagine if a listed company went on, and you might have seen this with Elon Musk, you know, when Elon Musk went in and started shouting about what his share price was going to be, he was breaking the rules. You're not allowed to go out and make price predictions about your shares. Now, crypto is still largely unregulated, so perhaps I could do it. But the point is, we're trying to be a regulator. We're trying to be a pathfinder to a more regulated environment, which then enables us to work and thrive in a regulated environment, which then enables the people that we're trying to help around the world thrive in that environment too. So that's why I don't answer those questions. But otherwise, we have a lot of other questions I answer over and over again, but not everybody hears everything. So I don't mind most of the time.
Totally understand. And what about this US exchange listing? You have said last
Yeah, that's another one. Slightly tricky to talk about because it involves lawyers and memos and some perhaps a few structural changes or something. I mean, I can't. Again, it's a bit. That one is a bit of a difficult thing for me to talk about. Other than to say, we obviously want. What we're all about is empowerment, right? So we're all about real world crypto use. We've got real world crypto use. We've got more real-world crypto use than virtually any other cryptocurrency. I mean, we've just found out, I don't know if you might have seen our website update, but up until a few weeks ago, we'd had 100,000 airtime top-ups direct from our app since we launched it. And then as our price has changed, well, I am able to say this, but as the ETM price has changed, the people in the market, the real people on the ground are really tuned in to the volatility in crypto. And as the price has changed, the volume of those has been absolutely enormous. So we did a 20,000 in a week right before the Anon Summit. So we were very excited about that. So we went from 100,000 to 120,000. And I said, we could really do with updating the website. The guys went off and ran another query and went, you're not going to believe it. 144,000 we're at now. So within the last 2.5 weeks, we've done 44,000 airtime top-ups. So we're a crypto being used by people in the real world in a massive way. And those app-to-app transfers that I talk about, these are the instant payments when one person scans another person's QR code. We're now at 295 or maybe just over that actually. So we're a whisker off 300,000 app-to-app transfers. So these are real people in the real world transferring value between them. So we've got all these real world users, but we're building this ecosystem. And at the moment, America feels largely out of that ecosystem, even though there are really loads of people that are keen to be part of it, keen to be involved. So I am hugely behind us getting a US listing. But it isn't the fastest thing in the world to achieve, I'm afraid, but we are absolutely on.
Okay. See, when you talk about top-up things, so even so, what about this utility things? Like you said, it's going to live in Africa first, and what about the rest of the world? It will come slowly, or
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, I mean, it's all about finding those commercial relationships. We've got, I think, 5 now. Touch wood. 5 countries. I always put these numbers out, and then they bite me. But I think we've got 5 countries that we are going live with electricity top up in Africa. We've tested it. We just did those tests literally maybe a week ago, maybe slightly more than a week ago. So we reached out to some of our any taskers. We said, hey, you got electricity meters with the meter number? And so I know we did some in Nigeria. I think we did a couple in Senegal. So we did some top ups, and they all worked, and the system is now functional. It's worked on our development environment, staging service. So that is being prepped to roll out. It probably realistically won't. Well, it isn't going to roll out until mid-June. So I'm not going to promise even mid-June. But let's say by the end of June, you will see electricity top up, utility top up in some African countries. And then from our point of view, we just need to get out there and find these agreements and get these deals wherever we can. The further we push out with any task, and the more people realize the success of that project, the more people realize that Electroneum is actually floating around. And these numbers, we've also gone off. It's not quite live yet, but we've got somebody that's looking at our figures to verify them, and that's an important thing that's going to happen imminently, I think. But in terms of the release of that data, but all our figures are real. This is totally unusual in crypto. Everybody's totally full of it in crypto. It's still the Wild West. People make stuff up. And so we invited somebody in that's a sort of a known scam buster. I said, well, fill your boots, have a look through all of our, do whatever you want, have a look in our databases, have a look at our relationships and the top-up APIs, anything you want to look at. And you can ascertain if our figures are correct. And so that's coming soon, if not in the next few days. So really, really exciting that the world can see that actually everything we're talking about is very, very real. So as the utility companies also see this, and of course it makes it easier for us to do the deals with them in the first place. So yeah, you'll absolutely be seeing that, because it's one of those other things that sort of is fairly ubiquitous. Nearly everybody has an electricity bill. Nearly everybody has a mobile phone. So if we can find those things that nearly everybody has, it means that when we design an interface and make a whole API system, you're not building it for one specific country in one specific location. You know, you're building something that can be used in lots and lots and lots of different jurisdictions. So yeah, so yep, you'll be seeing it definitely more and more. I think we've already got a couple that we're talking to in Southeast Asia. It would be absolutely fantastic to get somewhere in India. A lot of it comes down to the technology, because some companies have API top-up facility, and some of them just don't have that, of course. But where there is API that we can hook into, then I'm very confident we'll be able to work out a deal with them. So yeah, very excited. Your recommendation last time we spoke, CoinDCX, and I said, oh, I think we might have been speaking to them at some point. I made sure that we push forwards on that, and that whole deal is done. They are integrating as we speak. We were hoping it would be live before this conversation, so it's imminent. They're going to do a competition, and ETN should be listed on there very, very quickly. If the community, well, we don't need the community to reach out to DCX. They're literally on it. But if the community can show them some love when they go live, I'm sure they'll appreciate it.
Of course. Like, people keep asking on my Telegram group, when this happening, either Binance, either CoinDCX. Then I said, see, for Binance, you have to watch Richard last interview where he clearly mentioned Binance is just an exchange. But yeah, CoinDCX is good. And when we are talking about the mobile app, so I wanted to tell you, what about the security wise? I see people are looking for 2FA kind of option, or maybe biometric option to secure their app. Do you think it's necessary
Yeah,
to?
well, at the moment, so we are sort of 2FA, and let's call it sort of. We've got so the PIN number system and the password are independently protected by two different email addresses should you choose to use it, and I highly recommend everybody does. The idea of this is if your email account gets hacked, they could only reset your password. They couldn't reset your password and PIN, and thus they would not have access to your crypto funds in the wallet. So you can use two different email addresses. Perhaps you could use a friend's email address to reset the PIN number, for instance, or alternatively, you set up another Gmail account that has a different password. And this is the critical thing. You must protect your email accounts. People that get phished often find that they used their same password that they use for their Gmail, for instance, that they use for something else. Now that something else gets hacked, and let's have a look at, you go out there and have a look, you see so many platforms get hacked. Some of those platforms do the worst possible security thing, and they store your password in plain text. Terrible security problem, but nonetheless, lots of sites seem to still do it. So if those get stored in plain text, then it means that someone can easily hack into Gmail. If they hack into Gmail, they can reset your password. Now, the reason we gave people the ability to have two email addresses, one to reset your PIN, one to reset your password, is to protect them. Now, when it comes on to true 2FA measures, which all of us, we're familiar with crypto exchanges, and so we'd almost certainly be using Google Authenticator. That's true to two-factor authentication. That's the most, in my opinion, Google Authenticator is the most secure way of doing this. So there are a few things we've been asked for. One, SMS messages. That's a problem for us. In the worlds that we are working in, there is huge number reuse because they are they're not contracted numbers. They are pay-as-you-go numbers, and they get recycled after 30 or 60 days. So if someone doesn't pay for them, they get recycled. So somebody else can get your SMS message. So that is actually a security problem for us if we send SMSs. So we can't really send SMSs. And then it goes on to Google Authenticator. Google Authenticator is so complicated for people to use. Now, if you're an exchange user and you're familiar with that nature, it isn't too bad to understand, but you've seen it. It isn't the most simple. It's not a particularly simplistic interface. What you have to do isn't particularly simple, and nearly always you're using a desktop or a laptop and you scan a QR code with your phone. Now, most of our users are on a phone already, and Google Authenticator, you then have to copy and paste it through and bounce to and fro between one app and another. It isn't the simplest thing in the world to use. So what we've done is we've done this PIN number being reset to a different place, password being reset to a different place, and people can get their heads around it. I like the idea of having a Google Authenticator option. It's certainly already more than a year ago got written up as something we'd like to do, but we are so crazily busy as a team. I know that if I say to the market, what would you prefer? Would you prefer us to get, let's say, electricity top up live across 5 nations, or work on the 2FA? I absolutely know everyone go, no, work on getting electricity top up. And we've got so many of these things stacked up. We've got some other things, I'm not going to say what they are yet, but we've got some other things as well that is not mobile phone top up and not electricity top up, but a very exciting thing that people are going to be able to buy direct from the app. So we're integrating as fast as we can, and that's quite a lot of work. So at the moment, I think we are probably going to be left with the system that we have for now, but it is fit for purpose if you follow some simple things. Don't use the same password for your email accounts. Do use 2 different email accounts, one for your PIN, one for your password. Make sure you don't use those passwords in any other website. And if you keep those secure, then your ETN in that wallet is as secure as it can be at your end. But also remember that any custodial wallet, including ours, is far more dangerous for you to keep your large bulk of your crypto wealth in than it is if you have the private keys. Now, that may or may not be true depending on how good you are at looking after private keys. But we do have an offline paper wallet generator. So you could generate a set of QR codes, and with your app, you could scan and send to a piece of paper. It sounds really weird for the uninitiated in crypto, but you are storing your ETN on on a set of cryptographic keys, public keys, private keys. And that piece of paper enables you to do that. Now, if you keep the PDF version of it safe on maybe multiple USB sticks that are in a secure location, if you encrypt those into something with TrueCrypt or the like of that, some sort of encryption software, then you start getting into the realms of really protecting the private keys. But again, it's not for all users because people get confused and it seems technical for them. But the only truly secure crypto, in my opinion, I'm a big crypto guy, and you are as well. If you don't own the keys, you don't own the crypto, is the phrase in crypto. So if you've got your crypto wealth sitting on an exchange, one day it might be hacked. Touch wood, it won't be. I hope that it isn't, but it might be. Sitting in a custodial wallet such as ours, honestly, if you see the links we go to protect this, and we are attacked every minute of every day, 365 days a year. Our servers are constantly under attack. Now, we worked with HackerOne, and we've moved across to another security company. So we are constantly making sure that the battlements are there to protect us from hackers. But if the worst should happen, if you've got the bulk of your wealth on your own set of private keys, then you are absolutely protected. So the security becomes entirely in your own hands. So that's pretty much a bring up to speed on security, I think. Sorry, I have such long answers. I can't help myself. I do apologize.
No issues, no issues. It's good actually people get to know what is happening. And what about the ledger integration?
Yeah, well, the ledger code is written. I mean, if you have a ledger and you want to install it, you could. It's sitting on our GitHub. We've got lots of technical people that have already installed it, but it's not on the ledger shopfront, I think they call it, or storefront, ledger storefront, I think it's called. So it's not there. They have to assess it first before it goes into that. And COVID-19, everything's slowed down. They've said, look, we can't tell you how long it's going to take to get through our queue.
But it will happen, sure.
But it's in the queue. It won't get onto Ledger Live. That's a slightly different thing. So Ledger Storefront, you'd be able to install it, but Ledger Live is a slightly different thing, and it won't get onto there because they don't allow privacy coins of any kind. And whilst we're not, we forked from Monero, we are not like Monero anymore in that Monero has many layers of really clever privacy technology embedded in it. All I really wanted was one part of that, which is the stealth address. That stops me from looking in your wallet, and it stops you from looking in my wallet. And that was important to me. If somebody's earning, value from any task, if they're having some ETN stored, and then they spend it with a street vendor, I don't want that street vendor to be able to say, "Wow, they've got $300 worth of crypto." It's important for their own safety that they have that. So we've kept stealth address, but that one feature, even though it's only one feature, is enough for us to be classed as a privacy coin, and as such, they won't list us on live, I'm afraid. But it doesn't matter. You can still use it on Ledger. You're going to be able to go to the store and install it. Or alternatively, at the moment, right now, if you did want to install it, there are instructions floating around to install it from GitHub. It isn't the hardest thing in the world to do. So you might be able to do it if you're technical. If you're not technical, don't try it because you might well turn your ledger in.
Or else keep it in Electroneum wallet itself. That's it. Mobile app.
Yeah, well, keep it in Electroneum wallet or
paper wallet.
Paper wallet. Paper wallet is, you know what? I will stick my neck on the line here. I mean, I like the Ledger device and everything it does, right? So it makes it perhaps convenient to move things in and out and put your PIN number in. But ultimately, you still have to store the key. So when you use Ledger, it will make you a private key and a public key, of course, or in our case, public keys. Or we've got a view key, a spend key, and your ETN address. So you've got a couple of different cryptographic keys. But when you're using the Ledger, it will create it. So you'll end up with a seed phrase, whatever that is. I think maybe it's 12 word seed phrase on Ledger. I can't quite remember. But you'll end up with this seed phrase. You have to store that somewhere safely. That's absolutely critical. Where if you don't store that somewhere safely and you lose the Ledger, you've lost all your crypto. So if you think about it, where are you going to store your seed phrase? Well, I'm going to store my seed phrase, on a piece of paper under the bed, right? Okay. Well, if you're going to store it on a piece of paper under the bed, it's just as secure as if you had a paper wallet that you'd scan and put under the bed. So wherever you store that is where you would probably be storing your paper wallets that you generate at no cost whatsoever.
Okay. So one thing, maybe you have noticed, once we have done last time interview, the ranking was somewhere around 120 or 125 plus ETN on CoinMarketCap, and the price was 0.002 or 3 something. But the moment you have announced ETN reward stopped, and now there's only way to earn Electroneum is to do some task on any task or buy through the exchanges. The price shoot up, ranking also come to the top 60. What do you think about this decision to stop the reward mining?
Well, the stopping of the reward mining had to happen at some stage. Originally, we had actually planned to do it earlier in the year with the announcement of some other things, but we weren't quite ready to do it. So actually, what we ended up doing is doing it when we had this magical 100,000 top-up number. That's what we thought. You know what? We've got massive market penetration. The phrase I used during Anon Summit is a bit like a free gift. It's a sort of, it encourages you into the platform. We have more users on Electroneum than, well, virtually every other cryptocurrency out there. There is a handful of cryptos that have more wallet numbers, but I would argue that we have more real world use than all cryptocurrencies, perhaps outside Bitcoin and Ethereum, maybe even including, but we have more real world use. Like I said, we've had 44,000 airtime top-ups with ETN in the last 3 weeks. I find it hard to believe that number of real-world purchases has taken place with Ethereum. May have done, but mostly in the crypto community, not just real-world people. If you see what I mean. I mean, I'm a member of the crypto community. So are you. We're passionate about crypto. And therefore we use it. We try to use it. But our users are slightly different in that perhaps they are using it because it's genuinely benefiting them. They're not making a choice. So I'm not going to pay with Apple Pay. I'm going to pay with crypto. I'm not going to use my Visa card. I'm going to pay with crypto. They don't have that choice. So this is giving them something new. So we're still at the beginning of this journey. You know, we may be leaps and bounds ahead of most cryptocurrencies, and we absolutely are. But we're still at the beginning of this journey. You know, we're saying hundreds of thousands now, but that will be millions, of course. So, you know, I think I don't even know where I was going with this. You were talking about price, and I was neatly changing the subject. So we had to switch the rewards off because once you've got market penetration that you need, you don't keep giving away the free samples, and it had to switch off at some point. So we've made that decision. Now there still will be pockets of reward going on, but what we've done is we've made this token inflation pledge, which is we've still got some ETN rewards, of course, that they don't get given to the owners or anything like that. That just sits there being used to reward things and to be used in the system. But we don't want to throw it out in vast numbers because we want to use it judiciously. And so what we did is we thought the best way to do this is, rather than put an arbitrary number on it, this is the amount of ETN that will come out, we thought it would be better to work off a token inflation figure. So we're reducing our block reward down to 1% in July. So that's 1% per annum of block reward inflation. And that gives us another 1% of block reward inflation that we can use. Doesn't mean we will use, but we can use towards projects. So we've got some NGOs on the ground that are promoting any task, promoting Task School when it comes out. In fact, we're working with a couple of people to create content for Task School right now. And we will be dropping in a few things. I mean, we've got one place at least where we're dropping in hardware as well. So we're going to be dropping in the M1 smartphones into to people to be able to actually get access, and then we will be dropping in some ETN to kickstart that ecosystem. If you've got, as we've seen, if we've got ETN in an ecosystem, we know people start using it to transfer value, and of course, a bit like a rupee note or pound coin or a euro coin or whatever it is. Once one person's taken that value, they can move it to another person who can move it to another person, and it moves around. So we have to airdrop some in initially, but we'll be doing it in much, much smaller ways, much, much more sustainable ways.
Okay. And this hard fork is going to happen in July, right?
So it's more than it's a halvening and a half, in fact. So it's the equivalent of 2 halvenings, because we're dropping by 7.
Not hard fork.
It is a fork. It is a fork, because we have to for the block reward to change, we do have to fork. But because of the way we work with our validator nodes, that fork is absolutely inevitable and not under question. So I don't know, some of your viewers may or may not be aware that the miners in proof of work coins have a lot of power, and that power is concentrated in the pools. So the actual tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people who are running mining software on their GPU rigs or on their ASICs or even on their desktops, they are not actually making the block reward. So if we looked at Bitcoin, for instance, they're not completing a block template and submitting a block to Bitcoin and getting the block reward. The pool is doing that, and they get the block reward, and then they split it up amongst the people that have been providing hashing power. So the distribution is nowhere near as vast as people think it is. There are five entities that carry out 99.9% of Bitcoin's blocks. So all that hashing power gets concentrated, and they have all the power. So what that power, I mean, they're legitimate businesses, most of them, and they're not going to do anything nasty. So this is not me trying to scare the market. This is all, everything's fine. And what you do find is that if a pool gets too close to 50%, you do tend to find that the people who run the large mining farms move their hashing power to somewhere else. So it is balanced. So I'm not trying to have a go at the project. I'm just trying to explain that the power is concentrated with the pools. Now, what they do is they don't like mining fees to be low. So this is the transaction. This is the transaction cost, because that goes to the miner. They like the transaction costs to be high. So on the Bitcoin network, which I know that they wanted the fees to be lower than they are, the miners are revolting, as they say. So the miners revolted and said, no, we don't want to accept that fork. That happened some time ago. So the reality of it is the mining people hold a lot of power in proof of work. Too much power, perhaps, because ultimately the best benefit for Bitcoin would be if the fees were insanely low, which means it can have better adoption. So one of the things that we've done is, by having these validators that we actually give an authentication key to, they don't have any choice. And that does most assuredly mean that there is a central point, which is us, but we are a central point that people trust. So we say, no, we want the validators to earn a tiny amount, and that's the tiny amount they get. Whereas if we were to say, okay, we only want you to get a block reward and we don't want you to get a transaction fee, for instance, they could say, no, we're not going to do it. And they don't allow the fork to happen. And that's what's happened in lots of proof of work environments, is that the people with all the power are actually the pools, and they can dictate whether or not fork is or is not accepted. So yeah, from that perspective, Electroneum is in a very, very clear path. We are in control, which means we can do great things, but it does also mean that the community does have to trust us to do those great things, because we have this sort of centralized part of it that issues these keys. So you haven't got the complete freedom and thought, okay, yeah, the market is in complete control. Unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you look at it, you have a centralized aspect to Electroneum. However, there's already massive trust in Electroneum. And this is the critical part that people miss, is we control the custodial app, because you have to be centralized to have an app. You can't have an Android app or an Apple app in a decentralized manner. They have to be centralized. And as such, if you look at our system, I think it's 4.7 billion or 4.9 billion ETN in our custodial wallet system. So you think, okay, well, everybody's trusting us anyway. So what difference does it make if they trust us to look after the blockchain? Well, the answer has been a massive difference. We've made huge leaps and bounds. So our confirmation times are right down. The spam is right down. Everything runs far more smoothly like this. So we're really pleased that we took that step, and ultimately, as a regulated body, I think people will have that trust and realise that there can be cryptocurrencies that do have a centralized aspect to their nature, even though they're perhaps not fully centralized. You know, we've still got distribution of our validators globally, but yeah, there's people discuss this, so I thought I'd throw it into the conversation.
So which company is this for this custodian thing?
The custodial wallet, I was talking about us. This is just us. The people have to trust Electroneum, because Electroneum are the owners of the custodial app. You by the nature of using the custodial app, you are trusting us. Okay. Because ultimately, when you use a custodial app, you don't have the private keys. It sort of harks back to what I was saying a little earlier, which is we want people to understand private keys, and ultimately, I would feel more comfortable if everybody went, you know what, I'm going to keep the bulk of my my Electroneum wealth on my own set of private keys and use the paper wallet. But not everybody understands that, so we make the wallet as secure as we possibly can, and we bend over backwards to do that. And of course, the other thing we've got is, whilst I talk about a huge number of ETN, because we've got literally millions of wallets on there, probably one of the biggest. In fact, again, if we're not a top 5 custodial wallet, I'd be absolutely amazed. Very few people have got 2.5 million wallet installs in terms of running an app. So we've once again, we're right up there at the very, very top. But you know, if you take those coins and distribute them over those large number of wallets, people aren't holding necessarily huge wealth in those wallets, but there's just a huge number of them holding a small amount of wealth.
And as we know, Ethereum is shifting from proof of work to proof of stake, like 2.0 is coming, right? So in future, do you think you guys can also switch to proof of stake?
I would very much like to. We adopted the proof of responsibility thing for a couple of reasons. One, we hated the electricity consumption. There were at least 300,000 ASICs mining Electroneum when we switched. That's a vast amount of electricity. For the Kryptonite protocol, or Kryptonite protocol, sorry, that we run under, we actually spoke to the guy who wrote it, and he said your hashing rate is higher than anybody that's ever used this protocol before, because everybody had been blocked. So all the ASICs had been blocked. So Monero had blocked it, and all the other projects that were using it had blocked it. So these ASICs were sitting there doing nothing, and we opened back up to the ASICs deliberately to try and get a wide reach of hashing power. And so everybody who had those ASICs was mining Electroneum for a while. So the vast amount of electricity, I really didn't like that. That had to go. But at the same time, we had a pool, albeit a respectable pool, so I'm not having a go at them, but it made a mockery of it. We talk about how we were proof of work, and now we have a centralized aspect. But that centralized aspect now is controlled by us, and it protects us. We had 71% of our hashing power with one pool. So we were centralized, but we were centralized with some people that we don't know who their names are. They're in another country, not under a legal jurisdiction that is in anything to do with us. So we were under far more danger from running proof of work than we are now. We're in a really good place from a security point of view. Can't be 51% attacked. Can't be spam attacked. All sorts of things. Well, less chance of spam attack, I should say. Not can't be. But we've got these, we've got these ideas that if we can have the same amount of security that we've got now with a completely decentralized system, then we will definitely do it. We've got a great blockchain team led with Andre and Chris Harrison, and they are brilliant in their field. And if anyone can come up with it, they can. There's lots of other projects that are doing things. And of course, it's an open source environment. So if somebody else is doing something really cool, we can work with it, and we can add it or whatever. So yeah, would I go proof of stake? Absolutely. Not entirely sure how proof of stake works within a stealth address system, but I'm sure the boys can figure that out more than I can. They're brighter than me. So yes, is the short answer to the end of my long gob. Yeah, in future. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing with blockchain, is that you can constantly keep developing it. And blockchain does the same. It's still in its infancy, really, and there are lots of things coming. So as long as we can create a fault-tolerant system that has a consensus model and can work without the fear of someone coming along saying, I'm going to buy control, because that's one of the fears of the proof of stake model, is that somebody with enough money can just buy control of the network. and you don't want that either, you know. So I don't quite know how it will work, but if I can get us back to being 100% decentralized, then I definitely will, because I'm a crypto guy, you're a crypto guy, we're a crypto community. So part of that has always been this quest for utterly decentralized nature. But don't forget that even though we have a centralized nature now, or centralized aspect, we've got distribution, and there's an argument between distribution and decentralization, but we've got distribution of our validators. And while we have that centralized part for security and for safety, what we also have is this. Well, I suppose we've just got a desire to move with the markets, and we've got a passion to make sure that we're everything that the crypto community wants us to be. But remember that what we're doing is we're introducing people to crypto that weren't in crypto before. So we've introduced literally millions of people into cryptocurrency that weren't in it before. So we're great for other projects. And once you've got some Electroneum, actually there are some atomic swap-esque places that you can go to and you can make use of it. So if you want some Bitcoin, or you want some Monero, or you want some Dash, you can go and get it now. Well, you couldn't get it before. So this is an excellent route into that. Even if we are an utterly regulated thing, doesn't really matter. As long as you're in those crypto markets, you become an on-ramp and an off-ramp for other cryptos. So I'm a big passionate believer in people's freedom, and people's people should have control of their own financial destiny. So if we can be a part of that, it's a great thing.
Okay, one last question. Okay, when are you going to join Twitter?
Well, me personally, is it me personally or Electroneum? Surely, yeah. I see.
Personally, like people keep tagging some random Richard Ells on Twitter, and people saying these are fake, this is not genuine one. Even last time also, I tagged somebody else. I thought maybe you're already joined, but somebody.
Yeah, I've seen. I saw the original Richard Ells. The @Richard Ells was right at our ICO, and somebody said to me, "Why didn't you register that?" I went, "Oh, I'm not really a social media kind of person." So I don't. I own a social media management company called Withdrawal, and we work on social media. We've got social media.
I have seen on your LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's. I ought to really be all over social media. I ought to be into it, but I'm just not. I think I'm just look at my grey hair. I'm not. The social media revolution passed me by. So I'm quite happy to get stuck in from time to time. I think I did I replied on Twitter last night actually to somebody who was having a bit of a go at somebody else, and they made a statement about Electroneum's mining experience, which they said shows that we are fakers and shows that we're not real or something. They were just being a little bit ignorant to somebody else, and I did jump in on there. So the answer that came out there, albeit I typed it really, really fast, so I think there was a typing mistake. But in there, I did say, look, I said mining experience deliberately. We weren't misleading anyone. It was when we were giving that stuff away. The original explanation was mining experience. Then it went to cloud mining. Then it went to ETN rewards for various reasons. Some of them legal, but ultimately we weren't misleading anyone. We were giving them something. And was it an experience like mining? Well, it was, because you felt you did something and you got some ETN. But that's what miners do. I could sit there with some mining software on my computer just because it was doing proof of work. It really made no difference. It was a mining experience. So the facetious comment I made back was, if you go to Disney and ride on the avalanche experience, there's no real avalanche, right? The word experience covered it really nicely. So I do get stuck in sometimes, but yeah, I don't think I should be signing up for a Twitter account anytime.
One more thing. So this CoinDCX is happening next week, right?
CoinDCX, I've just had a little piece of paper that somebody waved at me and said, here it is. Chris says listing on the 11th of June. So CoinDCX looks like the 11th of June.
So yeah, Richard, it was again a pleasure talking with you. And this is the far best community in cryptocurrency.
I genuinely can't believe it actually, how passionate people are about what we're doing. And like I said to you earlier, it just feels really good to be doing something that makes a difference. I feel very, very, very privileged to be part of that community myself. And I thank everybody who's involved in ETN and everybody that has held that belief throughout these years and has helped make the project the success that it is so far. Have a wonderful day. I'll make sure you get hooked up with Kathy's email address.
Sure, I will do that. Thank you, Richard.
Brilliant. Thank you.